The moment has come to complete the gauge and bring it to life. Let's take a quick look at what we're aiming to achieve. We want the arrow to smoothly rotate from one side to another, simulating a gauge reading while the percentage number rolls in. First, we'll apply a spin animation to the dial, making the arrow rotate smoothly across the gauge. Then, we'll use a motion path moving up for the percentage number, so it rolls into place as the arrow moves. Let's head to slide 1 and begin. If we apply a spin animation directly to the dial arrow, it will rotate around its own center, which isn't what we want. We need the arrow to rotate around the center dot. So let's get creative and group the center dot and the arrow together. Notice that when you group elements in PowerPoint, any animations applied to the group are removed. If we try the spin animation now, we'll notice the same issue persists. The arrow still spins around its own center. So we need to get more creative. Ungroup the center dot and the arrow. Notice that when you ungroup elements in PowerPoint, any animations applied to the group are removed. Insert an oval shape right at the center of the dial. Hold Ctrl and Shift while dragging to create a perfect circle. Drag the oval over to the center dot and select both. Head to the Shape Format tab with Align Selected Objects enabled. Click Align, then select Align Center and Align Middle. Next, adjust the dial arrow so it fits perfectly within the oval and the center dot. Once everything is aligned, set the oval's transparency to 100% to make it invisible. Finally, select all three elements, the oval, the center dot, and the arrow, and group them together. We've effectively forced the center dot to act as the pivot point, so when we apply the spin animation, it will rotate exactly how we want it to. Now, select both the grouped dial and the dial marks. Head to the Shape Format tab, click Align, and then choose Align Center and Align Middle, just like you did before. Move the entire gauge to the side to make some space. Then, go to the Insert tab and select Text Box. Click and drag to create a long horizontal text box. We want one large row of numbers. Start by leaving a blank space at the beginning of the text box. Then, type out the numbers 1 to 9 and finish with another blank space at the end. Next, color the numbers white and change their font size to 44. Finally, drag the text box up slightly if need be. Then, duplicate the column twice. Align them side by side. Then in the middle column, add a 0 to the end, and in the right column, add a 0 to the end, and another 0 to the beginning. Then, head to the selection pane to keep things organized. Order and rename the columns as follows: the left column as hundreds, the middle column as tens, and the right column as ones. Select all three columns and move them beneath the gauge dial. Then, in the selection pane, drag them down so they sit underneath the dial marks and the group dial. While we're at it, let's rename the group to dial for clarity. With all three number columns selected, head to the Animations tab, click Add Animation, and select lines. By default, the animation will move downwards, but we want them to move up. To fix that, go to Effect Options and select Up as the direction. After that, head to the animation pane and set all the animations to start with previous. Let's play the slide and take a look at how it's coming together. We need to make the dial spin half a rotation, so let's start there. Right-click the dial animation in the animation pane and select Timing. Then, go to the Effect tab and change the amount to 180 degrees for a half rotation. While you're there, set the smooth end to 1 for a smoother finish. We also need to adjust the percentage numbers. To do this, click on the red dot of the motion path for the hundreds column and drag it upward. Aim to align it so that the blank space is in the display area. Hold down Shift while dragging to ensure the movement stays perfectly vertical and doesn't shift sideways. Now, do the same for the tens column. Click the red dot of its motion path and drag it upward. You can choose your own number. I'll choose a random number. Let's say 6. And for the ones column, pick another random number. I'll go with 9. We now need to hide the top and bottom parts so that only one row of changing numbers is visible. Head to the Insert tab, add a large rectangle, and format it to match the background color, brown. Then, set its transparency to 0 so it fully blends in. Place it over the numbers, covering the top section. Head to the Selection pane, rename the rectangle for clarity, and drag it down under the dial and dial marks, but above the numbers. Copy the rectangle you just created and paste it. Drag the new rectangle down to cover the bottom part of the numbers, ensuring only the middle row remains visible. You should only be able to see 10. Rename it for clarity, and in the Selection pane, make sure this new rectangle is also placed under the dial and dial marks, but above the numbers. Let's play the slide and check it out. Good. But the numbers need to be slightly closer together in my case. Let me fix that and check it out again. Nice. Let's add the percentage box, and we're more or less finished. Head to the Insert tab, select Text Box, and type in a simple percent symbol. Format it to match the style. Color it white, increase the font size to match the numbers, and position it to the right of the rolling numbers. Once placed, make sure it aligns perfectly with the numbers, and don't forget to rename it. One final addition we can make here is to add a speed-up effect to the ones column for the first second, so it spins much faster than the other two, creating a more dynamic effect. With the ones column selected, head to the Animations tab and click Add Animation. Then, choose another line animation and set the direction to up using the Effect options. Go to the Animation pane. Select the new animation for the ones column and click on the red dot of its motion path. Drag it upward until the 0 is slightly above the other 0 in the middle column. This will ensure a smooth transition between the fast and slow spin. Drag the new animation above the existing one, right-click on the new animation, and select Start with Previous. Next, right-click the animation again and choose Timing. In the Timing panel, set the duration to 0.25 seconds for a faster spin. And under Repeat, select 4 times. Lastly, set the original ones animation to have a 1-second delay and a 1-second duration. Now, play the slide one last time and see it all come together.